Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to go over what I think everybody needs to know before you start meditating. There's a lot of little things that will help you tremendously, make it a lot easier for you, and these are really more the basics of what you need. Throughout this, I'll try to make references to the matrix and identifiable things for people that will make it a little bit easier for them to understand where I'm coming from and what I'm talking about. And I will try to give you as many shortcuts as possible. There's a lot of schools of thought out there that you need a lot more than you really do to at least get started. A lot of people want you to take things really slow, but when it's the time to where when it's crunch time to where you really have to just get this done, if not only for the sake of being able to see clearly in our world and to remove the veil that our evil world has pulled over us, for those reasons I am going to try to eliminate as much as I possibly can of the unnecessary stuff from here. So this list may seem sort of like a lot of stuff at first, but this is about all you need to get started. The biggest one here is going to be becoming scientifically literate. Now, when you attempt to connect and communicate with God, God is going to have a hard time getting you to understand things if you do not know how the world works and how the universe works, basically. The more you know about how the universe works, the easier time you'll have when you're having things explained to you, or when you're trying to download information. It's like if you don't know anything at all and you're asking someone, how can help me, what do I need to do? If you don't know how to do anything or how anything works, it's going to be really hard for somebody to help you. So the best thing you can do is just become scientifically literate, as they say. So the best way that I recommend doing this, and this is very much a shortcut of understanding the universe. Now, Carl Sagan has made a video series called Cosmos, and Cosmos is what I'm trying to describe, and also what Carl Sagan was trying to do. He was trying to make a program that could make people scientifically literate to where they could understand enough of the basics about science to know roughly how astronomy works, how planets and stars rotate around each other, how gravity is the center of everything and everything revolves around gravity, the basic properties of astronomy. You don't really need to know what planets consist of or anything. You just have to kind of get a feel for how things work. The solar system, things revolve around the sun. The sun hits the planet, it makes things grow. It warms up things. The worms start moving in the dirt. This sort of life cycle is what you're trying to get a feel for. And this is exactly what Carl Sagan is trying to do in his series, is give you just enough information to get an understanding of the universe so where you're somewhat scientifically literate. Now, I think that also it helps a lot to know something more, a little bit extra beyond just that, with understanding how electricity works. Because, like they say, it's like an electric universe. The dominant source of energy in our universe is electricity. And the more you know about how it works, the more you can understand about how meditation works too, because meditation works by electricity. And so you may even have to adjust your diet, to put a little more salt in your diet to make yourself more conductive. Your body may not be conductive enough, you may have problems, or you may not have problems per se, but it will make it easier for you if everything is working as well as it can. And another thing is, the more you understand about electricity, the less fear you will have about what's happening to your body. When you feel, like if you felt electricity before and you do meditation, you'll notice that this feels like electricity in a way, or it feels a little bit like sunlight on my skin. It's like a warm, tingling feeling, kind of. But the more you know about science and electricity and stuff like that, the less fear you will have trying to do meditation and connect with God, and the more confident you will be about what you know, because you will actually understand these things. And you will be able to understand a lot more, and God will be able to explain much more to you if you have this scientific understanding of things. Another thing you're going to have to do is, to get started, is you're going to have to start working on killing your ego. Now, in our world, we've been taught to have big egos and to be, act like you're all that, even when you're not and stuff. This is a big problem. Your ego is going to really get in the way of connecting to God. God wants people to be humble in their smallishness, right? Us compared to God, we are very little, okay? So that's like, if you have a big ego, it's like going up to God and saying, "Hi, I'm big shot so-and-so." But to God, you're just, especially if you have never connected to God before, God's like, who are you? Right? And you're like, I'm Mr. Big Shot. And then it's just, it doesn't work. So you really have to kill your ego, and you have to come from a perspective of, I'm really not all that. I really don't know all that. Please help me understand, right? Because that's where you're really coming from anyway. If you have a big ego, you automatically are confused, because you'll find out once you connect to God that even He doesn't have a big ego, but He knows all, right? We know nothing, so we have no right to have an ego at all. Really. Our ego should be eliminated as much as possible, really. That's why the old "we are nothing but dust in the wind." This is like the perspective of people are trying to have to be spiritual, right? When you're going to connect to God, you're going to want to be like, I'm just dust in the wind, because compared to you, I mean, right? That's how it is. You're also going to want to stop hating things. God doesn't like it when somebody comes up and says, "Hey God, do you hate so-and-so too?" That is like, you're not going to get anywhere. God doesn't do that. God is like Jesus. We try to have the attitude like, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. You try to make things happen the way that you would do best. Like for other people, not for yourself, right? That's the thing. You have to become more of a selfless person and think of others instead of yourself. That God will respect as naturally the way things will work better with all people. If everybody was like that, then things would be much better. If everybody hates each other, it's horrible. So try to understand that you have to come with the correct perspective and feeling of how to be when you're going to do this stuff. You don't come with an attitude or with hate or angst or anything like that. You have to submit before love, more or less. And you have to concede that violence begets violence, and the only way to make things better is to do things in a good manner, in a loving way versus a hateful way, right? That's the way the attitude is always going to be. And racism is going to be a problem. Like, imagine this: God is not human, right? So if you're racist, you're basically telling God that you might have problems with him or something like that just because he's different. That is like, you're never gonna communicate or connect with God if you have an attitude of racism, because you're basically telling God you don't like him or you suspect him or something because he's different. Like, this kind of attitude it's not going to go anywhere at all. So you have to have the spirit of Jesus in you. Like, you want to help other people around you, and you don't think you're the center of the world and stuff. Another thing that the Bible points out is that if you're drunk or if you're stoned on pills or something like that, if you can't focus your mind and control your mind well, you'll also have more problems with meditation. Now, you might be able to get like up a couple chakras or something if you're on something or whatever, but you're not going to be able to perform very well at all in meditation, and you'll probably not ever get to the top chakras. Not necessarily because you're inhibited, but you have to have good control and focus of your mind. And when you are on most kind of pharmaceutical drugs that you get put on, you're just like in a stupor. You will not be able to control your mind and focus well enough to meditate when you're on a bunch of pills. Another thing is, like, a lot of people try to say that when you meditate, you're relaxing. I would tell you no. I would never see your meditation like, now if you're just meditating to relax, fine. But if you're trying to connect with God, I would say that relaxing is not what you're doing. What you are doing is you are attentive, you are focused, you are concentrating hard on being with Him. And you focus your mind and you concentrate. This is like an exercise in concentration rather than relaxation. I would say that to start, you're going to always want to do the lotus posture here. Now, there's no exact way you need to do the lotus posture. It's just, there's something about this basic position. Your legs are kind of folded, you're sitting straight up. Now, my posture isn't the greatest here. I don't know if I could really balance very well. You want to be able to balance on your butt. So where if you become like really, so if your body becomes relaxed, it doesn't want to slump over or something like that. If you're not in a good position, your body will try to slump a little bit or something here and there. But if you're in a good balanced position, you'll be good. It really doesn't matter that much what you do with your hands. Some schools of thought say you got to do certain things with your hand. The only thing you really have to do with your hands and arms is just make sure that they can fall and relax and be like supported, right? Like you can put your arms here, you can do this thing, you can do this. Now, when you touch your fingers together and stuff, it can change stuff a little bit, but it's not dramatic or anything. I would say that the default thing I usually do is just put one hand on top of the other, and that makes it pretty simple. And that way I can hold something in my hand too. I usually do hold something in one of my hands, and that way I know that when I stop feeling what's in my hand, I know that I have kind of detached from my body. It's just a little bit of an indicator to me. Because when you really detach, you kind of lose the feeling and the senses for your body, and you kind of go into yourself, and you can kind of just check to see if you can feel that anymore. Now, when you get started, I'm just going to do the real basics here. When you first get started, you just get yourself balanced in this lotus position, and you'll want to practice breathing. The easiest way to start this, I think, is just get balanced and put a hand or a finger on your breastplate like this. You want to exhale all the way, and you want to start breathing with your belly. You want to keep your breastplate all the way down and try not to let it move at all, and just breathe with your belly. Now that'll take you a little while to get good and practiced with, but you can just hold it down to keep it from your chest from rising. That's what it'll want. You'll want to breathe like normally, but when you get into spirituality, just always try to breathe like this, because it's always better for you, really. like breathing with your upper chest up here, it just like creates stress almost. It's much more relaxing to breathe with your belly all the time, really. The other part that you want to know about balancing and breathing to get started is there's 3 points to where you want to stiffen up a little bit. There's 3 points that kind of set your posture, and one of them is like your tailbone, or right above your tailbone, like right inside, is so like your tailbone is like right where you sit on, like that's what you feel. You'll want some pressure on your tailbone when you sit down, and there's 3 what they call bandhas or something like that, but there's 3 spots where you have to tense up a little bit. One of them is back here to make you sit up really straight, like way back right above your tailbone is as a muscle that you just like. I'm exercising it right now. Basically, it's this muscle that makes you sit up real straight. It makes your pelvis like tilt a little bit. So you want to make that one a little bit stiff, like halfway stiff, so where you're sitting up pretty straight. And then your belly, you're going to take your belly and you're going to just pull it up a tiny bit. It's like you're lifting up your belly just a little bit and tucking it in a little bit, and just not making it tight, but just a tiny bit tight, just to where it's like a little bit flexed, but not so much to where you can't breathe. Like when you flex it, it'll make it a little bit harder to breathe because it's kind of working against your other diaphragm muscles. But you want to be able to have this flexed a little bit and still breathe. So when you pull this thing up, you'll want to pull the other stuff that's behind it and lower down too. You'll want to try to pull all this up together. There's a spot like where your taint is, more or less. There's a spot right there, like that area that you're sitting on. Like you want to have a little bit of pressure on that, and you want to pull that up with your tummy here. And for women, they say that spot's a little bit higher. That's like behind your tummy, but a little bit higher. And this is probably the trickiest part that people have to try to look at a schematic or something. But I've described where it is pretty well. Now the third one is just your tongue. You're going to want to try to touch the sides of your tongue, like to the roof of your mouth. Just like the whole back of your tongue, like to the roof of your mouth. You want to try to make a direct connection. This is like an electrical connection. You want to. All of these are like strange electrical connections. You're making electrical connections when you do this, when you do this stuff back here, when you do your tongue. You're making a direct electrical connection from your brain up here down through your spine, through the rest of your body. There's sort of this tongue like bypasses part of your brain or something. I'm not sure exactly how, like what path things are trying to take. It might be going straight to the pineal gland or something. I'm not sure. But you can see in their diagrams that they want you to do these things to make the conductive path of the energy go a certain way in your body, and when you touch the tongue to your top of your mouth, this electricity goes through that path instead of somewhere else. Same with these other ones. So this is kind of what you're doing with meditation. You're flexing these different muscles, and you're making a different conductive path through your body for energy to start flowing in different ways. If you start to feel something coming over you, tingling sensation, that's normal. It happens at a certain point. Usually happens at the bottom of your breath. This is what you're kind of after. You're after getting stiff, breathing less and less until you get lower and lower closer to the bottom of your breath. At the very bottom of your breath, when you completely exhale, things will start to happen. If things ever start to get away from you at all, like you feel like it's too much for you or anything, all you have to do is relax. It's the tensioning of the muscles more that increases the energy flow. And this is one of the things you need to watch out for. You need to maintain a presence in mind as to what your body is actually doing here. And you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to overflex anything. You don't want to hurt yourself because you can overdo it. Now, usually it's pretty hard to overdo it. Usually it takes time, like you have to sit there for a long time and really tightening a lot of muscles to get a lot of energy going. That, be very careful of. Just try to take it really easy and try to go for the minimum amount of energy at first and take it in small steps. Don't try to push things. You can do damage to your body here if you try to push things hard. But as long as you're taking it easy and being mindful and even halfway careful, you won't have any problems. You really have to start meditating for long periods of time and getting really aggressive to have problems. Just relax if you think you're having a problem at all, and you'll be fine. Everything will stop. So, I guess for the Matrix analogy on this part, this is like Neo just at the computer. He's looking at all this information at his computer, and he's trying to learn about the world. He's trying to look at all the news and figure out what is going on. Now, he's desperate to find meditation, right? He can see a truth out there, but he doesn't know it at all. But he's seen that there's a single source, and he's seen that he thinks that there's a creation, and